Yeah. What's going on, guys? Sean here, Hammerhead. Got Mr. Gorden James Berry Jr. here tonight, doing a little chat. I got to tell you guys, we got really awful internet on here tonight, and this stream could be shut down at any stage. And there'll be a lot of lag. There'll be a lot of everything. There'll be a lot of juddering. It's probably screen loss and or a lot of latency. So bear with us if you can. We're just going to wait for some people to show up. You're going through some of your notes there.
Yeah. Just some stuff I wrote down last night about legal persons and stuff like that. That was pretty interesting.
Rhonda says hi, Gordon.
Hello. Bonjour. Yeah, I don't know. We're certainly in for some crazy time in the next few weeks.
Yeah,
I think,
Rhonda,
sure.
in case you're wondering, that's a ringneck pheasant. Yeah. Keep going. I was just telling her about this picture I showed her there.
No, it's all good. I just say, like I said, we're in for some trouble over the next few weeks, I think, for sure, prior to this inauguration of our hero. I say that facetiously, of course.
Inauguration of our hero, yeah. Well, I understood that for sure.
Yeah, facetiously.
Yeah. Happy New Year, Tanya. Thanks. It's my big word. It's the only one that I really can use and pull out of my closet. Jim is the hunter in the family. That's why I'm asking. Okay, yeah. No, ringneck pheasant. Yeah, delicious birds. I usually shoot one or two every year when I can. Yeah, so if you're just joining, my guest here is Gorden James Berry, my good brother and friend. We have internet trouble tonight, so there's going to be a lot of fading, a lot of kind of nonsense. We'll just have to work through it. If for some reason we lose it entirely, I'll reschedule this. Just go to the community tab on my channel, and I'll have a notice or a post up there about when the next one is. First of all, before we get going too far here, can everybody hear me okay? You can hear Gordon? You can hear me? Let's check the levels here. I'm using a new microphone on here tonight, guys. It's a new condenser microphone, so I'm hoping it'll be better than that other piece of garbage I had. Rhonda says yes. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect.
But anyway.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah, Gordon was he was at the convoy there. He wasn't there at the very beginning, but he did show up. But no, my brother Trent was actually there the whole time and got arrested and had his windows smashed out and all that other garbage. But
yeah, we're brothers from different mothers.
Yeah, what a bunch, eh?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, and when he went to get his vehicle after like 38 days or something, because they impounded it and they destroyed his license plates. I didn't even think that was something anyone could do, but they did. He had to go down to Ontario Motor Vehicle outside of Ottawa. I don't know if you've ever been there, Gordy, and get a temporary permit or something. So anyway, they gave him 45 minutes to get there, and they were closing the door. He hurried. He probably went 100 miles an hour the whole time to get there, and he hurried and just got in there as they were shutting the door. So that they weren't very nice to him. They left him out there handcuffed in the cold for 3.5 hours, minus 20 weather. I'm surprised no one else got frostbite. They probably did, but no, it was that whole thing was a debacle. It was a friggin' sham.
Where's everybody?
I said 7:30, so there'll be a lot of people straggle in here. I figured we get going earlier. Yeah, I don't know.
Really?
Just showed out where you guys are from, where you're coming from. It's showing there's 11 people, but like I said, I post at 7:30, so we'll wait and see what goes on. We got going here. My mom was at the convoy when they all first came, and also the last day. Cool. Okay, so Rhonda's from Waterloo, Ontario, Gordy.
Yeah.
Ah.
Houston.
Hey, Peter, thanks for coming. Happy New Year from Houston. I love my Texan friends. Freedom forever in our hearts. So grateful to have been there. It was a precious moment, unforgettable. Yep. Yeah, it was definitely, it made everybody proud to be a Canadian. Unfortunately, everyone wants to be the 51st state now, so I don't know where that pride went for a lot of people. Maybe it didn't go anywhere. Montreal, Quebec, Tanya's from. Tanya, welcome from making the trip all the way from Scotland, JT. We appreciate you, dude. Thank you very much for spending time with us on New Year's Day. 2025 is all. 2025. Brand new year, guys. Brand new year. Is this going to be a brand new opportunity to shake this country loose from the tyrant's greasy long fingernails, or what's it going to be? What are your predictions, Gordy, for this year? Anything?
Yeah. I think this is our year. I think this is the time it shifts. I don't know necessarily the path, but I think it's starting to collapse right in front of us. That's part of their plan too, though. It's like a double-edged sword. They need to collapse all. Their plan is to collapse all the governments per se around the world, make it so people don't have faith in the systems, so then they can usher in their plan with the one world scenario. But by the same token, doing that, a lot of people are realizing that their governments are corrupt, and that's why it's up to the people. If we do nothing, they're gonna do it for us. So it's up to us to take the systems back into our control and fix the problem. So it becomes an uprising of the people. You see it all around the world, and it's just, I don't even understand why people are even still considering voting at this point in time. You know, like you look in the UK, and not long ago they got the Labour Party with Keir Starmer, won this big election, got a majority mandate. Some people say that was a fraudulent election and they cheated. Whatever, it doesn't matter. They still got what they got, and now you got them doing the same thing that they're doing over here in what they call Canada. They're signing petitions to have a new election, and this time they want the Reform Party, which is really not much different than the Conservative Party in Canada. They talk the same nonsense with common sense politics and common sense solutions and all this stuff. And I just think people got to realize that the political structure is exactly what's keeping us enslaved, and them guys are only
Bear with
puppets
us,
to the
guys. We're dealing with
one
some
running the show.
internet issues here.
Now you're going to tell me you never heard me the whole time.
Go ahead, brother.
Did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the year of repeating. This is the year of repeats.
Yeah. Bottom line is it's simple. The only solution is within us. The only solution is within us. You see it all over the world. Like I said, in the UK, recently as of last year, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party wins a majority election. Some people said that they cheated. Doesn't matter. They win. And now they don't like what's going on with Keir Starmer, so they're filling out petitions and things just like we did in this land they call Canada. to try to get another election. So you get the Reform Party and Nigel Farage and all these guys. And if you listen, anybody that pays attention to the world geopolitical stuff, the Reform Party and Nigel Farage talk about the same narrative that the Conservative Party talks about here. They're talking about common sense politics and common sense solutions. They use the same verbiage. So you can't tell me this isn't being controlled from the top down. I don't know. Like there's a small group of people in this world that have been running these things in this world for a long period of time. I'll be careful of words I use, but basically those are the same exact people that control the central banks. And for those in the U.S. that believe in this new guy coming in on the 20th and he's going to fix everything, well, he better do it fast, because it looks to me like he's controlled by the same people through all the funding that he gets from places like APAC and stuff. All these politicians and all of these so-called countries that are nothing more than corporations, all of them are actually just being controlled by these central bankers, and they're running this narrative to lead us into this one world agenda. So until the people rise in every country, every corporation, every land around the world, then we're at their disposal.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to know what to do. Tanya says, I pray we'll build back up, for I'm so heartbroken that we have become Canada strong and free again. Yeah, that's what everybody wants. But unfortunately, Tanya, no one's willing to sacrifice a lot for it at this point, because of the comfort levels are still relatively high here and in other places. Until something major happens, I don't see the people coming back and raising up. Maybe they will. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm not going to sit here and say I know everything. I certainly don't, but I do keep my eye on the pulse of the world, not just what's going on here. And, but I don't think social media and internet, including this podcast or this channel, is going to save anybody, really. All we can do is offer suggestions and put our experience and our words out to those that may capture them, and then take those words and do something constructive with them, i.e. move it into the physical realm to do something to get your own power back. And all we're asking you to do is to just clear your mind of what you think you know, myself included, and take a look at it from a realistic standpoint. Physically do something. I'm not saying violence. I'm saying get together and come together and just stop infighting, because there's so much infighting has been going on, and it continues to go on, in this country, this landmass. I mean, like I said, I don't even like calling it that.
That's all by design, though. They have all these people. They have all these people that are, pseudo freedom people, for example, but they're not. They're there to create the divide. They're there to create the tension. They're there to cause all the problems.
We don't need to have multiple layers of government, Rhonda. As a matter of fact, I don't believe we need government at all. We need resource managers, people that are smart enough to actually manage the resources of the country. Government has become bloated and fat and just power hungry beyond any scope anyone could even imagine ever happening here. I mean, we've often heard about it, and we're taught it in history class and in school about other totalitarian regimes in other countries and how bad it got there. But now you're starting to see it in your own backyard, and I hope we can all wake up before it's too late. I really do.
The governments don't actually do anything, you guys. You have to understand, comprehend, I guess. Basically, they're just corporate entities, man. And the way that they run in these corporations is they have these politicians that are nothing more than puppets for the public eye. And that's all they do. They're just out there and they're just talking from a script, and they're saying what they're supposed to say to keep the masses happy or keep them mad at them or whatever the case may be, but they don't do anything. If you look at how corporations run, the basis of a corporation is run by the middle management team. And then inside of our government structures, that would be the people that you never see. All the pension funds, all these things they're run by other people. Right now, what happens is they bring information to these so-called politicians, and if they do make a decision, It's based on what benefits the shareholders of the corporation, and it's never what benefits the people. They keep taking your rights away. They keep doing all these kind of things. None of those things benefit you. Increase in taxation, all this kind of stuff. Like, none of those things benefit you, but they always benefit the corporation. So the corporations doing business with other corporations through the benefit of only the corporations. So when you have a new structure, put a new structure into place, the only job that they really would have is to manage their resources and infrastructure. That's it. That's all. So, managing the infrastructure and resources. And at the end of the day, with resource scenarios, once the cost comes out to actually pull the resources from the ground, what's supposed to happen is they're supposed to send dividend checks to all the people in the land. They're not supposed to take the profits and do anything with the profits. They're supposed to share that around with everybody. So you're not poverty stricken. The reason they keep us all poor is because that's how they control us. And then they've done this for so long now that so many people on a psychological level are indoctrinated into this belief that you, me, Sean, any one of us, there's no possible way that, we could run a government. But in fact, they don't do anything. And it's funny in Canada, the land they call Canada, because you have someone like Chrystia Freeland, who used to be the finance manager, and she can't even string a sentence together. And she was a horrible media person, journalist. She wasn't even good at that. And then you have Trudeau, who's a failed drama teacher that's supposed to be able to run a multi-billion-dollar country or corporation. Like, just think about the simple logic of that. Those people are far less intelligent than most of us.
Yeah, the clowns have run away with the clown college is essentially what's gone on, for lack of a better term. They're not for us. They're not for us. It's obvious that they've showed their hand over the last few years, what their real agenda is, and it's not about helping Canada. It's not about helping the men and women in the landmass, for sure. If it was, we wouldn't be sending all our money, all our wealth outside of this country to other countries. We'd be helping our veterans, our homeless, our old people, the people that need a real hand here, right? The ones that founded the country, that built it, right? The ones that built it with their own two hands,
That's what I mean. All the international aid is nothing more than money laundering. These are all UN directives and narratives, that including that with the immigration policies of the UN. That's why all these countries are getting overrun by immigrants. They want to collapse the economies. They want to collapse the societal structure. They want us all fighting amongst ourselves. That's why, because then they usher in all of their plans with this whole one world system, the digital currency and, controls and all of this stuff. It's all coming from this. That's what I mean. When you think like for people in the UK,
Peter
or
says
the US,
400 billion to Ukraine. Wow.
Yeah, I know. And they're still doing that. And Ukraine, that's actually the funny thing about the Ukraine is that's like a reality TV show, man. Zelensky was on a reality TV show. And he was, that TV
He actually
show
was.
on
You know what?
Netflix,
That's funny.
that was called The
I didn't
Servant
even
of the
know that
People.
was a real thing, dude.
It is.
Until you pointed it out to me that that's a real thing, that he was an actual actor in this television show. I thought it was just, it wasn't even true until I went and looked. And sure enough, there was a TV program. I think it was 2016 or something. It came out and ran for like a year or two. And he was an actual actor in this, where he played the part of whatever, right?
Yeah, 2015 to 2018, I think, and it was called The Servant of the People.
Is help Canadians first,
and everybody.
the
same as the guys in the UK
here before we worry about others.
It's the same as the guy in the UK and the people in the US. You should be taking care of your own people first. That's it. This whole globalization.
100%. Yep.
This whole globalization agenda started like, years and years and years ago, man, with the United Nations and all this stuff. And from the very beginning, it was a lead into what we're facing today. They want to get away from these nationalist ideas. And I don't mean that in a negative standpoint, but you should be taking care of your own people first. That's it. That's all. Immigration, all this stuff. Like the UK are facing the same things we're facing. The America, if you look around and you see that all these countries are dealing with the same things: violent extremist Palestinian protests, Israeli issues, mass immigration on different levels, the economy dropping, taxes going up, sending all this money all around the world overseas while our economy's struggling. People are friggin' going homeless, mortgages are defaulting, all this stuff's it's happening in every corporation that they call a country all around the world. So once you understand that concept, then you have to really accept the fact, how could it be possible to have a political solution in one landmass when this is a worldwide agenda?
Well, I mean, really, if you look at it in the scope of political solutions, a lot of the troubles that we have now weren't necessarily thought up by our politicians or by our government, so to speak, but they certainly didn't come out and talk against it. And they're certainly helping ushering it in, from my point of view. They're not doing anything actively to remove us from these organizations or from these groups. We're still part of the UN. We're still part of all those things, and until we break ourselves free of all that and focus on us and our own issues here. And then, listen, anybody that's been in, we don't need to be taken. Anyway, if you guys are just joining, please hit the like button. Also, we're having internet issues here tonight. We're fading in and out. I apologize. There's not much I can do. But anyway, hit the like button so that people know that we're live here. We're trying to have a conversation, so let's have one.
The whole thing's a fraud. The whole system of control is a fraud. The whole governmental system is a fraud. No matter which landmass you live in, they're all fraudulent. The United States systems is fraudulent. They had a chance at one point in time, and they subverted that. Every other Commonwealth nation is all fraudulent. You have monarchies that have no actual control, no power. They're broken down to limited monarchies. You can read that in the 1688 Bill of Rights. It proves it to you. They can't operate outside the government. That even happened with King Charles and his coronation, where they passed acts in the Parliament to change his coronation oath. So how honest and true does that come from God?
Really?
Because if you really look back in history of the kings, they're supposed to have derived their power from the Lord. That's how it is. But now when you have the British Parliament passing an act to change his coronation oath, how is that coming from the Lord? They're all fraud, man.
I don't know. I don't really want to talk about religion too much, but I'll just tell you from my own standpoint, religion is man-made.
Right.
I personally believe.
100%.
And they've been using it as a tool of control like any other tool.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
That's not saying that I don't believe in Jesus Christ or in his power or anything, because I do. But I mean, irregardless of that, I wish we knew when we were little kids what we know now. They're just starting out in life instead of, I don't want to say ending up, but I mean, we're definitely on the declining side, right? We're on that downward slope, so to speak. I mean, no one knows from day to day, but I really wish we knew now or then what we know now about the deceit and the fraud, and that stands for everybody. Imagine how much different your life would be right now if you had understood this, or if you had comprehended this information back, let's say, when you were 10 years old. I mean, I've always known that there was something wrong. Gordy, there's always been something wrong. There's something that just hasn't sat right, in your soul or whatever. There's always been something pulling at you, same as me. And there's a lot of.
Yeah, like I said, I did that live not long ago, and right from the moments we were born, we were put into these boxes of basically slavery.
People out there too, I'm sure, that understand. Welcome.
We're nothing but chattel, guys. That's what it is for them. That's all they care. They don't care about anything. They care about us being chattel. We're chattels to the debt based on the fraudulent trust. That's all we are. We mean nothing to them people. You know, that's the facts. That's it. There's no way to hold anybody accountable for anything, you know.
Yeah, just bear with us. It's coming back here. Instability in the internet, so I apologize. Question about it. The problem with full steam ahead and the problem with being awake now is the fact that you can't go back to sleep. Some days it's a lot easier if you were asleep than it is to know, and try and move forward. It's frustrating, man, trying to move forward when you know what you know, and everybody else is still snoozing away. They're still hitting the snooze button on the alarm clock again and again and again, right? And don't want to wake up to the ugly truth of it. But again, I can't ostrich. I'll never stick my head in the sand. I want to know what's going on, good or bad. I don't care which it is, but I want to know the truth in all things, right? Welcome back, Gordy.
I didn't know I was gone
there for a second.
I didn't know I was even gone. It's yeah, man. It's a friggin' it's a heavy burden, man. It's a heavy burden to know. Like I said earlier when we were talking pre-show, like you know everything's a fraud. You know what needs to be done to fix the problems, but you can't acclimate enough people or empower enough people with knowledge and ability to step outside of fear to begin the process to do so. That's a heavy burden to carry, man. So knowing is great, but being able to take action upon it is a whole nother thing.
Go ahead.
A lot more people awake, yeah, but nobody knows what to do to get started. Yeah.
Go ahead, Gordy.
There's lots to do. It's just people have to take their power back in their own hands. We have to do it. That's it. No matter what that looks like. We have got to arrest these criminals that are acting as politicians, and we have to take charge of the system and fix it. There's no other way out of it. And too many people are afraid of that. They think it's chaos. They turn it into bad, negative stuff. But the fact remains, that's the truth. And if we do nothing in 10 years from now, people will look back and hear this stuff and they'll wonder why nobody listened. But that's the facts. The truth can't change no matter whether you're willing to accept it or not. It still remains to be the truth. And this is every landmass, man. All the people have to do is stand up. They don't have enough power. It's all fear and intimidation tactics. There's not enough police. There's not enough anything to stop the people. I don't know, man. That's it. You know, We see all this stuff in the States and everybody's hanging on the new savior, but there's mountains of evidence out there already that that's not going to go the way the people believe. You got a billionaire oligarchy that's going to end up taking over that whole scenario. Meanwhile, he doesn't talk about, you hear him talking about saving democracy, but the United States was never built on democracy. Democracy is a completely separate form of government than a constitutional republic. Constitutional republic is about the rights of the individual, and a democracy is about the rights of of the majority. So that's what they've done. They've taken your constitutional republic and they've subverted it with this national system that's based on democracy. That's why you guys are in the same boat we're in. People won't accept the truth. He's a hero. Because it's easier if you find a hero, then you don't have to do nothing.
Yeah. It's what it all stems down to is laziness, really. I mean, that's why people are entertained the 51st state thing is because if that does happen, their life that they think is going to instantly be better, and it may appear to be for a while. But what about Canada? What about the landmass here? What about the people who fought, bled, and died for this place? Are we supposed to just sweep them under the rug and just forget about all that, or what? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think we got a better chance of getting the criminals out of our system than we do down there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the 51st
I'm not going to
state.
say yay or nay because man, based on his actions, not on his words. His words don't mean really anything at the end of the day. It's what he does that matters, right? So that's kind of where I am with the whole thing. I just wish more people would stand up in this landmass. You know, how are you affording to live right now? I'm having a tough time. Gordy, you're always having a tough time. I know you are. How are people even affording to live? And now the liberals are saying they want to increase the carbon tax, another bump, a big bump in it coming, supposedly in April. I mean, lunacy, guys, lunacy. They want us all completely poor, like downtrodden, like Venezuela, like the lower, like third world country. You bring in the third world, you get the third world, right? And they're actively trying to do that.
It's very easy to control a population that's poor, bro. That's how they do it. Then they offer you these little tiny handouts every once in a while, like UBI, for example, Universal Basic Income. They're going to break everything, and then they get you relying on the system. And of course, then when you're relying on the system for your survival, who's going to stand up against the system? It's not possible. When you look at the 51st state agenda, you got people that were supposedly proud nationalists, proud Canadians, flying the Canadian flag, the corporate symbol of slavery, of friggin' all kinds of horrible things, and now they want to be a 51st state. But the 51st state, it's just like everything, follow the money. The only reason that's even an idea is because Trump wants to get control of the Northwest Passage. Trump wants to get control of all the resources. He wants that's why all of it. Greenland comes into play because they have a massive friggin' port on the eastern side of the Northwest Passage. They can ship oil out of Alaska, and Panama Canal comes into it too because he wants to control the shipping lanes around the world. And if they control the shipping lanes around the world, they'll maintain their world power. It's never been about our rights. It's never been about the people in Canada or how horrible Trudeau is treating. It's never been about that. It's always about money. That's all it's about, period.
Yeah, but I have a hard time with that one, Gordy. It's about money. These people own all the money, man. They have all the money. They create all the money. They own everything. So how is it that is it they're so ingrained in devilishness and Satanism that they need even more money? Do they think that's going to give them even more control? What is it? Like they have the money.
Yeah, but we still have a little bit. Some of us still have a little bit. They haven't broken us all down to the point where we need to have government subsidies to survive and all that, which is the UBI. And then it's also, the good guy, bad guy scenario with Russia, with China and Russia and the United States and the BRICS and all of it. And every one of them agendas are serving them people. They don't serve us. None of them serve us. If you listen to the BRICS scenario, it talks about sustainability and all of the same things, the digital currencies, all these things that none of us want. And then Trump is the good guy going to fight China because he's going to tax them, 100% tariffs and all this stuff. But China holds like $800 billion in U.S. debt. So what happens if they call that in? At the end of the day, these politicians, the puppets, are still going to remain in power. And then also that 51st state agenda leads into District 1 of this whole New World agenda and the North American Union. Bad internet.
I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, guys, I freedom. I've been free as I can be, but I don't. It's the kids. It's the next generation coming up that's worrisome. And if we can't get control of this situation now, they're going to have to deal with it, right? And what chances are they going to have to deal with it, realistically speaking? I mean,
And you're right.
I'm of
It
the
doesn't.
personal belief that there's enough guys like Gordon, myself.
You're right about the evil side of it, though, right? Like the whole
Go ahead, brother.
the whole demonic side of things and all that kind of stuff. You're absolutely right about that. Who's the greatest deceiver in the biblical text? We know who that is, and they're all part of that play. So I'm not taking away from that when I talk about chasing the money. But what money is it's just like religion and politics. It's just another form of control over the slave population, and that's who we are. And that's it. That's all. You became a slave from the moment you were born. You know what I mean? When they created that birth certificate and they created that fictional alternative identity that you're supposed to be when you're not, that's what it is, man. So it's all them things tied together, and they're using all them other avenues to control the population. Remember, every dollar, doesn't matter what landmass you're in, every dollar, every coin, it's all fake. It doesn't have any value to it. It's not backed by anything. It's all fake. You know, like I said, the world is in debt something like $300 trillion. Well, who's that to? It's the same people that are in control of the whole thing. You know, a couple of groups of 13 families, some that people know, some that people don't. That's where it all goes down to. Central banks have a lot of power, man. So much so that even the so-called powerful monarchies and the kings and stuff are nothing more than
they
puppets
always
of these
have.
people. But what we got to remember and what we got to comprehend is that their power is nothing more than fictional. We are the ones that have all the power because we have the numbers. We are the living beings that don't have to be controlled by none of this. We are the ones that they're afraid of coming together.
That I really do. I understand. I stand under. I don't stand. True power of the individual is being squashed everywhere we live, but it's the most important thing, in my opinion, and it's the number one reason why I wish people would discover what it is that makes them powerful and stand up. You know, if they could just tap into even a tenth of that, it's like tapping into. They say you're only using 10% of your brain. If you could realize and utilize 20% even instead of 10%, if you could stand up 10% more, it might be enough, right? That's my hope.
Everybody's so indoctrinated into believing they got to look for power outside of themselves, and that's not the way the world works. That's not how it's supposed to work. That's why we're in this ship. Once we start all realizing we have all the power within ourselves, coming together and creating that collective energy,
I have read my Bible. Yeah.
That changes everything.
Yeah.
You know, how do so many people?
Yeah, but Victor, he's saying that third world people coming into Canada take away the jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the agenda, though. That's on purpose. That's not a mistake, man. That isn't a mistake. And everyone on social media saying deport now. I demand you deport now. They're here, and they're not going anywhere.
Those companies like Tim Hortons, for example,
sadly true. My Texas friend.
Tim Hortons and those companies have signed deals with the federal government to have all these people going in there, and the federal government's paying 50-70% of their wages and so on and so forth. That's all by design. Having all these people taking away the jobs from, our young people that are just starting out in life and things like that. That's all by design, because they want us poor. They want us broken. It's all about upsetting the social structure of all these different lands. It's happening in all the different countries around the world, man. The UK has them coming in boatloads every day. You know, it's funny. I seen the other day around the holidays, there was illegal immigrants in the UK that were stopped at the airport because they were trying to go, refugees, whatever. They were trying to go back home to see their family. They wouldn't let them. They're not allowed to leave the country and go see their family, but they didn't stop them from coming in. Don't you see that dynamic as being completely ridiculous? They should have helped them on the plane and send them home and just not let them come back.
Right. They're obviously being told to bring them in.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're being told to do it, to let them get through these security checkpoints and to go through these security areas and to get these buses into the inner city. They're obviously being told, they're allowing it. It's like what you see on the internet. It's just information that they're allowing you to see a lot of the time, right? I mean, there's some platforms, I'd like to think there is some platforms that tell you the real truth, that don't censor, and don't try and show you just what they want you to see. But it's certainly the mainstream, and I think most people have woken up to that fact.
You can't get the truth out on a big scale. It's hard, man. They control everything. They control everything we see and hear. It takes a lot of discernment. Everybody needs to use discernment, because the ultimate, you know, all of us are controlled to that degree because they control everything we see and hear, whether it's good and it goes along with your thoughts or not. They control everything. They control all the algorithms. So without using your own discernment, you're going to get misled just like everybody else. And the only way you get true discernment is really knowing who you are and where you come from and what you're all about on a morally sound compass. Look beyond the headlines, all these things, because they need us to create these realities. So the more people keep sharing all this fear, scary information about the next scam that they're going to bring out, you know, and all this stuff and all these threats, and, you know, that we create that low vibrational energy, and ultimately it happens. Everything we fight against, we end up creating. Just look at the term freedom fighter, for example.
Yeah.
Why would you be fighting against freedom? That's
right.
That's a bad term. You're a freedom fighter. So
it's like the term sovereign citizen.
Yeah, exactly. It makes no sense, right? Fighting for freedom is one thing, but, you know, a freedom fighter, oh, you're fighting freedom.
Yeah, but you understand, Gordy, that man has to place labels on everything. That's what he does. If he doesn't label it, he doesn't know how to define it. It's like there's 1,000 different types of music. They call it hip hop or rap or blues or country. There's all these different types of music because they have to label everything, right? It's the same in all aspects of life. Everything has to have a label, right? You can't just be a man. You can't just be a woman. They want to call you a person, or they want to call you whatever. They want to assign titles to you. You know, it's the same deal with commerce. It's the same thing with contract law. It's the same thing in all facets of society, right? They always got to put some sort of a label on it, right? So much like our teachers labeled us as troublemakers when we were kids, right? In school.
Yeah, 100%. So then why would they want to do that? The whole simple to make it as simple as possible is because they don't have any control over the living man or woman.
Inside of little boxes that they can.
Yeah, to control you, right? Like I said, they don't have no control over the living man or woman.
Yeah, it's quite a ruse. It's quite a scam. It's brilliant, actually. Like we've said this many times, it's true. It's 100% brilliant.
Yeah, you're put in boxes every step of the way, man. You're given a name that you can't witness. You can't attest to the fact that it's even your name. They created an alternative identity that becomes a legal person that you don't even know that you're playing in that role. You know what I mean? You go to whatever level of school you're going to, they're putting you in all the boxes at school, whether you're an athlete or you're a smart person or this or that. You get jobs, and you know, in sports, there's always coaches, there's always team captains, there's always whatever, you know. every level of life, man. They've always got us all separated instead of just being equal, standing on an equal playing field as living men and women. That's it. You know what I mean? As you work your way through, all the way through, it doesn't matter where you're at in life. There's always separations to keep you apart from everybody else on some level or another. Nothing but a number. Yeah, nothing but a number. I think we're frozen. I can't tell if we're frozen or not. It looks like it to me. I don't know who hears me. We're not frozen. I can't tell. You know, there's a lot of information out there for everybody to look at, man. Like I said, I don't know. I spent a lot of years learning a lot of stuff. I don't know. You know, you can use Wikipedia, and I know some of that's questionable, but if you read that, I was looking at that last night. There's lots of hyperlinks that can kind of tie you up and make you understand the whole legal person and how that all works, and birth certificate and contracts and contract law and how this whole system works. But we we are living in a corporate slavery system all around the entire world. Every level is a corporation. The police are corporations. The governments are corporations. Everything is a corporation, and we're the ones that are kind of trapped in the corporations. Because the only way that they'll give us anything is the only way we can operate inside the corporations is be the legal person that they've created, which is another corporation. To stand as a man or a woman, that's where you're enslaved. That's where they take away all your privileges that they call rights, all these things. So, like I said, what authority do the police actually have? Dawn, I know I got to call you. I've been meaning to remember to do that, so I will call you. But even the police are corporate entities, and they can't do business with you. And everything that they're giving you, from tickets to whatever, they're all offers of contract, and they can't contract with you as a living man. They can only contract with you as the legal fiction, and then when you contract with them as that legal fiction, that's where you're acquiescing your rights over to them, and they have control over you. All the courts are corporations. The Ontario Court of Justice is registered with Dun & Bradstreet, just like every other court. I don't have access to Dun & Bradstreet. There's a guy that I'm connected with, Michael John, up in Ontario, and he has connections, and he does a lot of digging. But if Canada, for example, was a sovereign nation, why are Canadian provincial governments filing their financial reports with the U.S. Security and Exchange Commission? Why are they registered on Dun & Bradstreet? Canada goes through the U.S. all the way back to England, which goes back to London, and even the City of London. For those of you in the U.K., the City of London, a whole entire separate entity from the U.K., from London in and of itself. And that's the banking district. That's where the control is. They have their own mayor, they have their own whatever, and they control that, separate from any other legal scenario in the UK. Is that a coincidence? Why would that be? You have to start looking at the obvious. You know what I mean? You have to start looking at the obvious. The US is the same. There's so much corruption in the US, it's ridiculous. And, you look at these politicians, all they ended up doing is getting wealthier and wealthier and wealthier. And how are they doing that? Because they're doing business that benefits the other corporations that are filling their pockets with this lobbying and all these other backroom deals and so on and so forth. And when has any one of them been fighting for your rights? Look at the Congress, for example. You have some of these people in the Congress of the United States, and people think that they're great freedom type people and they're working for the people. And they got people like Fauci in there, and they got all this evidence against Fauci for the crimes that he's committed. And they're railroading him in the Congress and making it look so horrible and giving him all this hard time. But at the end of the day, they allow him to go home. No one's arresting him. Why wouldn't they arrest him if they have all the evidence? It's the same here in this landmass they call Canada. Mountains of evidence. Nova Scotia is always going to stay close to my heart, even though I've been gone for a long time. But you got Robert Strang down there. Makes, $360,000 a year as a base salary. And what is he doing down there? He's causing the loss of lives for so many people. So many people he's causing the loss of lives for. That's what he's doing. And I'd like to say it a lot more firm, but we'll be careful on the channel and respect Crow or whatever. I don't know, man. I've been doing this a long time, sacrifice a lot, and it isn't about me or whatever, but I feel like I'm a messenger. I have a vast amount of information and knowledge about this whole system, and I'm trying to share it. And I think, if you don't share it, then knowledge dies ultimately. But I don't know. I kind of feel like this is my path in life, and for all the hardships that come with it, I have to continue because one of the main reasons is I don't hear anybody else on any big scale in this landmass talking this truth. And it's factual truth. It's not my perception. Anybody can go look it up with the information provided, the documents, the paperwork, it's all there. And for whatever reason, they all choose to not. I have people that follow me on Facebook and specific people that try to get me into bigger platforms to speak on larger groups and platforms to get the information out. And for whatever reason, nobody seems to want to include me in that. And I would dare say it's because they don't want to talk about the facts and the truth. I think we have to make a stand, the people. That's where power lies, the numbers. And I think we have to arrest the criminals that are acting as politicians. I don't know what that looks like on the back end, but I know that's what we need to do. And I'm not afraid of dealing with whatever comes from that. And at the end of the day, everybody thinks the world's going to collapse. Well, I don't think the world's going to collapse, but nonetheless, the truth of the matter is the way these systems are designed, if you understand them, they all have to be fixed. Every level. The financial system's a fraud. The medical system's a fraud. The education system's a fraud. The way they deal with all of the resources is a fraud. The government's a fraud. The police is a fraud. Everything's a fraud. Nothing benefits us. So I remember asking people, why do you fight so hard to hold on to things that are doing nothing but destroying your lives and taking away from you? And I understand that's because, it's a psychological thing. It's like being in an abusive situation with a spouse. That's what it comes down to. People are afraid of the unknown. So if we were successful doing what we need to do, then people are afraid what's going to come from that. It's no different than the spouse, that maybe beat you up on Friday night, but outside of Friday and a little bit of tiptoeing around on Saturday, you can manage for the rest of the week. But if you change that dynamic, you don't know, maybe the next person is going to beat you up 3 days a week. People are afraid of the unknown and they can't step in their own power. That's what we need to do. I'm not afraid of the unknown because I'm not afraid of anything, but if you want to use the term afraid, I'm more afraid of allowing them to continue with what they're doing, and they don't even hide it from us anymore. They basically tell us what they do. They're telling us openly what they're doing, and we step back and we allow it to happen only because we're afraid of the unknown. Can the unknown be any worse than what we know? We know what they're going to do. Can it be any worse? That, I mean, I think people fixing the problem of a sound moral compass,
Power,
and
they
that's
think. It's
that's
part of
there
the
to take
occult.
care of everybody. That's what we need. And then you get a double-edged sword about leadership, and everybody thinks they need a leader and all that kind of stuff. Well, again, you're looking outside yourself for power, but I get it to a degree. People need leadership. They need somebody to follow that they believe in, that they can trust, and all that. But even when you try to take that avenue, for me, if you try to step into that role as claiming to be a leader, whatever the case may be, then you get all of the people attacking you like that you're not qualified and you're not able and all these other kind of crazy things. The bottom line is we need people to come together from a sound moral compass and courage to change this system. And in fact, we have to. We're changing the world. If we don't, it's up to our kids, and it's going to be like the Hunger Games. And if they get their hooks in very much deeper, it'll be hundreds of years before we can ever change this. Because at every step of the way, they're going to take more power from us, more power from us, more power from us. I hear the stuff. I'll stop here just one sec, Crow. You're back on, I can see. But you hear a lot of people now talking about a convoy, another convoy to Ottawa, and they're going to have a convoy to Ottawa to demand an election. Do you realize how ridiculous that sounds? You're going to put all of this time and energy and resources of people and money and all of these kind of things together, and you're going to make a big giant convoy to Ottawa, possibly have the Emergencies Act invoked, which locks us down again. And the only thing you're asking for and begging for is a new slave master. That is absolute insanity. And at the end of the day, you put all that effort in and you gain nothing. You gain absolutely nothing. It goes all the way back to the plantation. And you get to choose Mr. Smith or Mr. James. That's it. That's all. And unfortunately, you can't, I'll keep trying because that's me. I'm not a quitter. But if you can't build the people, then that's what we're going to get. We're going to be stuck in that plantation for who knows how long. And they're going to keep taking it from us, man. Our brothers and sisters and friends or family are passing faster than we can count. And we accept that. Unbelievable, man. Anyway, Crow, I see you're back now. You're not on timeout.
Yeah. I really don't, man. Yeah. Oh, my nap's over, bud. I had a little sleep there. But no, I agree with everything you said, buddy. I mean, really, at the end of the day, something's got to happen. Something's got to give. Can't hear me? My volume bad? Can you guys hear me? Say yay or nay. That way I won't waste my breath. Can't hear me?
I can't hear you, bro.
Hang on a second. Testing. Kathy Sharp says, yes, I can hear you. You can't hear me. Yeah, at the end of the day, guys, I'm of the same belief. We got to do something.
I can't hear you, but they can, so continue.
We got to stand together. We got to stop this stupid fighting, this infighting. We got to stop this ridiculous bickering back and forth, and start formulating a plan to get together and start talking face to face or start talking about these issues. I'm not going to just lay down. Why would I? Why would I just lay down and take it? At the end of the day, I'm free. In my heart and my mind and my soul, I'm never going to not be free. I do not accept their title. I do not accept my rights being turned into their privilege. All right? They're my rights. They're mine. Each person, each man, each woman has the rights they're born with. They're yours. They can't be put on a piece of paper. They can't be bound. They can't be latched. They can't be held in contempt. They can't be held for any reason. They're yours. I'm not going to give that up at all, ever. With my dying breath, I'm going to keep fighting. I always will. I'll never stop, ever, 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 ever. I'll never stop. I don't care what they try and do to me. I'm never going to quit. I'm never going to waver, and I'm never going to change my mind, because I know what I am and I know what it is. I've seen it. I've seen all the evidence. Gordy and I share stuff all the time. He knows what I know. I don't know everything he knows. He doesn't know everything I know. But we collaborate. We have these conversations because we want to share information, because a lot of what happens from these conversations is beneficial, because new ideas come from it. We get a lot of new ideas come out of this, guys. Right? And we use those ideas in order to come up with new plans and new things that we can do and new things we can try. Right? But no, I'm not going to run off to some other country. Why would I? My family built this place. My ancestors built this country. They built it with their own sweat and blood. I've had people in my family die for this place. They bled the ground red. I'm supposed to just forget it and give up? Never going to do that. Ever. That's what a lot of my music's about. That's what I'm about. You know, I'm just trying to bring information that I've come across and things that I believe and voice it verbally to you guys, so you can decide for yourself what you want to do or what you want to know or what you want to become, right? I'm not trying to force anybody down any path. I'm just giving you the info. You do whatever you want with it. I'm just telling you what I believe and where I'm coming from, right? It may not be the same place you're coming from. You don't have the same life path that I have. You haven't had the same experiences. You haven't done the same things. We've all done different things, had different experiences. That's what makes the journey in human life. Now, I don't even want to use that word human because it's disgusting to me, because of what I know it means. But man's life, a woman's life, you know, that's not something that I'm willing to give away free or something I take for granted, right? But I'm not going to be pushed around. I'm not going to be bullied. I'm not going to be talked down to. I'm not going to be governed over, because I'm ungovernable. I've given up my right to be governed, my privilege that they've turned into a right. I've given it up. I'm not going to be governed by these people. I live by one law. I live by two laws. The ultimate supreme law for me is God's law, right? And I live under the law of do no harm. That's what I'm about. That's where I'm from. That's where I live. You know, I'm trying to tell you guys what my experiences are in this realm, so you might be able to decide maybe it's a path you may want to take, or maybe it'll give you the courage to stand up in some way that maybe isn't even realized yet. Maybe it's coming. You're going to become some great leader or something. I don't know. I'm not saying that I am a great leader. I'm not a leader. I lead myself. I lead my own life. I lead my family, for sure. But I'm not anyone's savior. It's not my job to be a savior, right? In my opinion, Jesus died on the cross for you to save you from eternity or from damnation. Save your soul. That's not my position. That's not my job. Mine is here to educate, right? And to try and help, and to try and throw in a voice of reason in a place that's gone nuts. Look at the shape of the world's in right now. It's gone completely sideways. It's crazy on all levels, man. It's upside down land. It's 180 land. I tell Gordy this all the time. It's 180 degrees. Just flip it around. That's where we're living, right? We're not living in any form of common sense whatsoever. We're living in 180 land. Everything's turned around 100%. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say for now. I'll turn it over to Gordy if he wants to say something.
Yeah, it's certainly the bizarro world, that's for sure. You guys got to, like, the whole premise of everything is, like, I talk a lot, I say a lot of stuff, I bring a lot of political stuff to the table, and all kinds of documentation and so on and so forth. But the bottom line, what I try to always tie into that is personal power. That's the key to it all. Each one of us have our own power, and when we stand in it, then that's the end game, and that's why they keep us all separated. But you guys have to think for yourselves. Were you born to be a slave? Did you come here to be a slave to these corporations for your whole entire life? And I don't care how wealthy you are or how poor you are. That's not what I'm talking about. But a slave to the system. Is that why you came here? Is that why your spirit came here and took on this body, whatever you want to talk about on that esoteric level, to be a slave to these corporations? Because it doesn't matter, no matter what. That's what you are. That's what we all are. They have total control over us at every level, man. You know, I wasn't born to be a slave. I know that for sure. And for a lot of my life, I was, because, you know, I didn't ever fit in them boxes. Like Crow says a lot back in school and whatever, you're always labeled as the bad guys. You're outside the box. I never fit in that. And I tried, man. I remember being back home, running my own businesses, construction, trying to do way too much, you know. Spent, 3 years where I probably didn't take a day off and just grind and grind and grind. And I was doing okay for a while. I always had money in my pocket. I wasn't worried about this and that and, all these things. But, I just never fit in them boxes. I could never break through to the next level of success, if you will, because I was never supposed to be there. If I ever had a gut there, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't know what I know today. I wouldn't have learned what I know. Everything that I know and I've learned has been through the struggles, because I had no choice. I had to figure it out. But I was never born to be a slave. We're all born to be free. And they took that from us from the moment we crossed over, and they signed us into these birth certificates and trapped us. There's nothing right about that stuff, man. And we didn't know, and our parents didn't know, and their parents probably didn't know. But, you go back 100 years or so, we never had to ask permission to do so many things that today you have to ask permission for. And heaven forbid if you don't have a license to do any of these things, because that's illegal. Crow and I talked about this a lot too. There is nothing that is unlawful that you can make lawful by giving somebody a license to do it. It still remains unlawful. Whether it's you're traveling in your vehicle and driving, whatever. They may give these CIA people and all these people that travel the world and commit all these crimes and assassinations or whatever. They may give them a license to do that, but it doesn't change the fact that it's still not lawful. You can't license something to make it lawful, man. But you need permission for everything. You need permission to build a shed in your property. You need permission to do this. You have to have permission to hunt, permission to fish. All of these things, man. Oh yeah, and Crow's a fisherman. He goes, he's gonna destroy the waterways in Nova Scotia if he takes one too many bass out. Meanwhile, you got trawlers, fishing trawlers, corporations that are out there dragging for certain things and destroying everything else along the way. But they're licensed to do that, so that's okay. But heaven forbid if he gets an extra bass to take home to his family. And we're always the bad guys. Everything trickles down to us. All the bad trickles down to us. And it's all for our protection. It's all for our safety. It's always about safety and protection and convenience. That's how they sell everything to us. They don't like us talking. They go back to the Civil War in the U.S., and that's why they had everything was closed. Back then they remember there's people gathering in pubs and barns and things like that. And that's how they were managing to be able to do things. That's why they shut us all down. All the big lockdowns shut us all down. You know what's interesting about these things? I remember telling my friends back home about it. And that's my buddy Wade, who would tell everybody he thought I was just shy of eating crayons back then until it all started coming true. But anyway, nonetheless, friggin', we were all locked down. I wasn't, because I lived in my car at that point in time. So I was actually seeing the surrealism of the whole entire world. The streets were empty. It was unbelievable to actually witness it and see it. But during that period of time, when all this so-called fantastic, deadly situation was taking place, they still had all of these dudes out working during the days, probably mostly during the nights, because there was nobody out there to see them. And what were they doing? Putting up all the towers, 5G technology. So did they give them special suits to wear so they couldn't get sick while they were hooking up these 5G towers, or anything? No, man. The whole thing was a lie. Whole entire thing was a lie. And they got us to accept it. And they made us so afraid. and so scared with massive media propaganda that people were lining up for all this stuff. And they still do to some degree. And there's a lot of people now that say, I'm not ever doing it again and all that kind of stuff. And I hope that stays true because we're going to face it here very soon. But at the end of the day, it's easy to say all them things until you get the pressure put on you, until you're backed into the corner and you're threatened with job losses and all these other things. And our economy is a fair sight worse now than it was back then. So how many of these people will stand true in that strength? I don't know. I'm sure there'll be a percentage that stand firm, but will they break us again? You know, because the hardest time to break a wild horse is the first time. Every time you get on its back after that, it's a little bit easier. And then eventually the horse is completely broke. That's what they do, then. It's psychology, man. They control us here, and they control everything else. This is where we got to take our power back, guys. I don't know what that means for you. I don't know what your breaking point is, but we're at a point in time now where we got to know what our breaking point is. How about questions? Anybody got any questions?
I've already been through the fire. Yeah, ask away, guys. Now's the time. We might not have the answers, but we'll try.
Yeah, fire away. Anything's on your mind.
No, we're not going to quit, Kim. There's no quit in us.
So we were doing, obviously Crow remembers, but I don't know about how we can do a public meeting. That's where I'm at. I'll take right now, Crow, just a sec. But that's where I'm at right now in Ontario. Basically, since I left home, I basically am operating on the assistance of other people that support me. That's it. That's all. People can say whatever they want about that, but that's it. I've given up everything in life to do what I do. And that's not easy. But right now, my idea is to get back on the road to be able to go talk to people. But financially, I'm not able to do that right now. So I'm trying to work that out. So hopefully this new year brings a little bit more benefits and help that way so I can do that. But for Crow and I to both do something like that outside of doing it online is difficult because he's still in Nova Scotia and I'm in Ontario.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it'll be all about the Benjamins to have that happen. We're certainly in no financial position to do that because we're going to need it.
And that's a double-edged sword for me.
We're not saying no.
That's right. But the whole monetary system for me is a double-edged sword because ultimately you need assistance and stuff to do what you're doing. It is what it is. I accept that reality, but by the same token, I know it's all fake. So it's kind of, like, I don't even know the whole thing's, but you need it to survive. Yeah, I know a bit about Cal Washington. I don't know a whole lot about him. I've heard about him. He's working with some other groups or things like that. I don't know where he's trying to go right now. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a goof necessarily. I don't know.
No.
I don't know if that's a goop. I think that might be actually beneficial, but I haven't seen your conditional acceptance. Your conditional acceptance is changing the terms of the offer. That's how it should be. So if you've done that, then by them signing it, then that means that your offer is now the valid offer.
Who signed it, Don, and under what authority? Like under what pretense did they sign it? As the head of a corporation or in their private capacity? That's an interesting thing, though. I've never heard tell of a Crown prosecutor taking it, conditional acceptance, and taking it and signing.
No, me neither. I've never heard tell of that either. So it'd be hard to say without seeing what your conditional acceptance was all inclusive of. That should make that man
As the
or
crown
that man acting in
prosecutor, or
that
did he
role
sign it as
liable.
the man?
And that should make them liable for that now.
Yeah. Yeah, because they've accepted it for value by putting their mark.
Send me a link, Don. I'll have a
It's
look
a
at that
wonderful
PDF.
bit of information there. I highly suggest everybody get that and read it. You can get it, still get it on the internet. I don't know why they haven't taken it down. Yeah, send us a link to that, Don. That is interesting. There's no question. We'd like to see that. Want to say or questions? Put it in the chat and I'll throw it up there.
How many people actually believe that there's a solution within the system? That's the key right now. How many people believe that? And if so, please tell me exactly what you're referring to. Because if you accept that truth,
Kathy wants to know where you were in Ontario.
I'm about a half an hour from Renfrew.
Just give her a general idea.
Yeah, about a half hour from Renfrew.
Yeah, that's interesting, Susan? I've never seen one signed by them, a conditional acceptance. I'd like to see that document if at all possible. Contact me, Don. Message me later and give me an email or something. I'll get a hold of you.
It could be a good thing. Yeah, so I went to a doctor's conference. So I do Facebook Lives. I don't know how many people here are familiar with that. Gorden James Berry Jr., whatever. Crow knows. I get, I don't know, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. I get pretty good coverage, not great coverage. But I'm trying to get the message out on a broader scope. So I've reached out to different people and with bigger platforms and things like that myself, and I've had no luck. So one of the things that I did for your guys' information, a friend of mine got me into a doctor's conference that was in Whitby, Ontario. And it was one of them ticketed events that I don't really like too much. But anyway, I went. I didn't have to get a ticket. It was fine. A lot of people that were there kind of were surprised that I showed up. They're not a fan of me, but those are the control op groups anyway. That's fine. Anyway, nonetheless, I had a chance. I found an opportunity to speak with Theron Fleury from the fire and ice stuff that he does. And I talked to him in the lobby and I asked him a question, just like I asked you guys. I said, Theron Fleury, if anybody pays attention to his talks or whatever, I was always leaning to the conservative solution and Pierre Poilievre and so on and so forth. However, I asked him, if you understand that, or if you comprehend that this is a worldwide agenda, do you honestly believe that there's a political solution within this country? And he told me no. And I said, okay, well, we're on the right standpoint then. And I said, I'd like to be able to talk about that, whatever. Anyway, and he said he'd get me on the show. I've never heard back from him. I made a few comments since then on his X page, his Twitter page, whatever. And there's been a lot of different people in different groups and stuff that have, I've tried to be in touch with, but I don't ever get in touch with. And I'd say the only reason is because I'm apolitical. I'm the one that sees that the system is the problem, and the only way we fix it is with us, and everybody else is offering solutions, politically speaking, within the system, be it a new party or a new MP or a new so on and so forth. Direct democracy, voting with your phones, or independent scenarios, or all these things. Every one of those things is acquiescing your authority over to the system that is enslaving you. So I don't see that as a solution. And I don't know, why is everybody so afraid to talk about that? Why are they so afraid to admit that? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know why he did what he
Well, not
did.
to mention
No, go ahead.
the fact that you got to pay. You get the fact that you got to pay, what is it, $35 or $40 or whatever to join any party, or to join the Conservative Party or whatever party it is.
Yeah,
That should tell you right there.
yeah.
A bunch of billionaires running around looking for even more money. So for what reason exactly? So they can be your authorized representative? As far as I can tell, they're not authorized to represent anybody other than their own interests and the interest of the devil. That's what I've seen with my own two eyes. Maybe your experience differs. I don't know.
And you don't get to stand on level playing field. Like that's how it works. You're not on a level playing field. The media don't listen to you. You don't get coverage by mainstream media. If you're outside of the existing political structure of the big three, or even throw the Green Party in there a little bit now, if you're outside of that structure, nobody hears what you have to say. That's it. That's all. That's the facts. That I even had the idea that if you had the right financing and the right marketing, then you could start a political system, a political party in this land, and run in the federal election. And with the right marketing and the right money behind it, it's possible that you could do something. But the only way you're successful is if you win the election. So that's a massive uphill battle, because they're going to block you at every turn. And they're not going to allow the media to cover you and all these kind of things. And they're going to paint you this and that, and how they paint us as conspiracy theorists. I've been called all kinds of things. I work for the UN. I'm committing treason. I'm going to get people in trouble. None of that stuff's true. The only reason I do what I do is to try to prevent all of these things that people are attacking me with. It doesn't even make sense. Same with the whole violent agenda and that whole scenario. That doesn't even make sense. If you come into this based on the whole scenario with this great big plan, this big scam that they pulled on everybody, where everybody lined up for, and you're trying to save lives, so why are you going to sacrifice them by being violent? That doesn't even make sense. It's like an oxymoron. And I talk about evolution of humanity in the sense that I don't believe we win. I don't believe we win in a revolutionary standpoint anyway. I think they have too much technology today, and I think we'd be in bad shape, man. And I think they're waiting for that to happen. So, but again, that makes it harder to move forward and harder to figure out the plan. Yeah, if voting was good, they wouldn't allow us to do it. That's exactly true. I wish more people would understand that. The truth of the matter is, none of us even want to be doing this. I certainly don't want to be doing what I'm doing in the last couple of years, spending a couple of winters in campers. I'd rather be home building my life, getting my life back on track. I have skills. I build houses. I was a mechanic. I worked in the automotive industry. I was a warranty administrator at deal. I have all kinds of different skills. I'd rather be home trying to build my life and get myself back on track. But somebody's got to be able to do something. Somebody's got to sacrifice. I miss my kids, but I tell them I hope they understand it. It's like I'm basically on a tour of duty. No different than if they sent you to Iraq. If you were in the military, you're on a tour of duty. That's where we're at. We're in a spiritual war. We're in a war for our future, and some of us are trying to be on the front lines and walk it, whatever. And I don't know. I don't have all the answers. If I did, this would be fixed by now.
Oh, you're just an honorable man standing in his truth. And what else could we need more at this time in history than that? I can't think of anything. You guys know of anything?
There's a lot of people. I'll say the basis of what I talk about is, thousands of people standing up together and arresting the criminals as politicians. I don't care how people paint that in their own world. That's how I see we start this process of fixing things. And there's a lot of people that say that's tyranny, that's this, that's that, and everything else, and they can call it whatever the hell they want. But at the same time, during the whole entire journey, I've asked a multitude of people to offer a solution. And there is nobody that has come once offered a solution. And then the so-called solutions that they may come up with or throw out there at people are all solutions within the current system that enslaves us. So those aren't solutions. They're misleading you. You can't win as an independent. There's no way that you're going to get enough independents selected inside this system. That's not how it works. When I ran in Nova Scotia, I got 10 to 15% of the votes in my area, and all that told me was people were frustrated. Okay. I don't know what Cal's solution is, Paul, but if he has a solution, then let's get going with it. But I don't see one inside the system. And if the solution doesn't include us taking our power back and arresting these criminals, I don't see that as a solution, unfortunately. If we're going to allow them to walk away and resign for the crimes that they've committed, that's not a solution.
We're not interested.
And I'm not negating what he's doing. I don't know what he's doing at this point, but if he has a solution that works, then I'm all for it. But if it's inside this current system or courts, international courts, people really have to understand that that's not going to work because everything's corrupted. Thanks, Susan. I don't really need thanks. I don't have a choice, honestly. I appreciate it, but there's nothing else I can do based on my makeup. I'm sure Crow would say the same.
I always try.
Is Cal's solution within the
always
court?
Succeed, and in actuality, you learn more from your mistakes than you ever do from any of your victims.
He's turned their own system against him. So what success has he had, Paul?
Yeah, sorry guys, there's a lot of latency here. Oh wow, Susan, that's mighty generous of you. Thank you very much, Susan, for being a great supporter.
Much love, Susan.
Yeah, wow, that's unbelievable. She's one of my oldest subscribers, not in age, but in length of time, and really appreciate having her around. I don't know, man. I personally believe, Jennifer, I personally believe the convoy thing's already been done. I don't think there's any recreating that whole deal. It was natural. It was beautiful. I'm glad I was at least some sort of part of it. I don't think it'll happen again.
The convoy, for all the good that came from it and the people that had opened their eyes, the convoy in general was a controlled opposition movement. And the simplest way to grasp that concept, I'm not attacking anybody. I certainly could say lots about lots of people. That's not what I do. But if that was real and that was actually going to create change for the people on a massive scale, do you honestly believe they would have ever let anybody even get there? You realize people traveled from BC, that's 5 days traveling to get to Ottawa. The purpose of the convoy was to do exactly what it did: invoke the Emergencies Act, freeze bank accounts, which they still have the ability to do, and then come out and start attacking the whole so-called movement. Don't get me wrong, there was a lot of good stuff that came from that. there were so many people organically that stood up there. And the real heroes there weren't the people that were in the hotels doing all the so-called and so forth, whatever. The real heroes were the people that were in the street freezing. Those were the real heroes. Even the narrative of the speeches was controlled. There was nobody up there that was speaking about the real problems. There was nobody up there that was speaking about the big issues and where this is all coming down from. Yeah, Rogue, that's interesting, but the caveat to that is now that the courts no longer follow their own rules. So it's very difficult to enforce them when we don't have an arm of enforcement. I'm not disagreeing with you. There is avenues within the courts if you're firm and strong and things like that, but certainly up here in this land in Canada, it's very, very difficult. I know there's a little bit more successes in the U.S., and I don't know exactly where you're from, but there's more success in the U.S. with UCC and things like that, but it's different up here, and I've been in these courts, and they're not even abiding by their own rules. They just roll over us because we have no arm of enforcement. With respect, and what I don't know what he's accomplished. How many people have been arrested?
Yeah, I'm all about the peace, man. That's what I'm after for sure. I mean, that is freedom, right?
It's true, man. I'm telling you, like I sat in Norm's court, and I helped him in going through that whole process, and I can tell you, I put my life on the line to say anybody, any judge or any lawyer that had any sense of honesty and read the transcripts from that proceeding would know for a fact that there was no guilt in that situation. No crime was committed, no property damage was done, and none of that kind of stuff. And the Crown prosecutor failed in their one job to find guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a fact. And at the same time, the judge is found him guilty. So I don't know where we get any victories in the courts. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Rogue. That's ignorance. I try to tell people about the Canadian flag too a lot. And at the very least, if you want to fly it, flip it upside down. But people can't even come to terms with that. And now a lot of those people that were out there flying that with so much pride, they want to be the 51st state. So well, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yep.
The psychology of people is mind blown.
That's true. That's absolutely true, guys.
Let me just ask one question. This isn't against anybody.
I agree
that's
with you
out
on
there.
this one too.
This isn't against anybody that's out there working. But what really is the issue with arresting criminals that have committed egregious crimes, regardless of what title or stature that they claim to have? What is wrong with that in a moral world? And
Nothing.
why is everybody so afraid of that?
Nothing.
Because that truth cannot be denied.
Conditioning. Programming.
That's the key right there, Rogue. Exactly. In that comment, that's the key. You can't get friggin' justice in a system that's designed on corruption and built for corruption. That's the struggle. You know, like we talked about probably the last time, we talk about a lot. If anybody has any ability to access the bonds of these criminals, that's going to be the breaking point. That's where we're going to hold them personally accountable on
Let
an
us
individual
know if
basis.
anybody knows how.
And does Cal know that? Does Cal Washington know how to access their bonds? Because that's the breaking point. When you can start holding them accountable for unlawful practices against us on an individual basis, that changes the game in a fast hurry.
That's a 100% win is what that is, guys.
Once you file a claim against one of these employees' bonds and they become unbondable, that means they become unemployable.
That's 100% true. If you can get their bond info, they can't work. If you put a claim against their bond, they're done. They're finished.
Just look at the corruption of the
know where
police.
these bonds are.
Look at the corruption of the police guys in Canada for sure. They're corporate entities. They don't have any right to practice law. They've never studied law, so they don't know law. All they know is corporate policy. And they come here and try to force you into contracts. And a contract is not valid if it's forced upon somebody. But yet we go to court, we try to fight these things, and we try to do all this stuff, and they just railroad us. You know what I mean? They constantly railroad you. So let's say you send in your conditional acceptance, and they ignore it, because that's what happens a lot. They just ignore that. And then you miss your court date. Well, the facts of the information is when you offer a conditional acceptance to any tickets or any of these kind of things, that now becomes the purveying contract. That's the one that exists right now until they come back and offer you another option. So that is what it is all about at that point in time. So then if they ignore that and then they come to arrest you because you missed a court date and they put a warrant out for your arrest, right then and there, they've overstepped their bounds because that contract is what's supposed to stand. But they do that because we have no arm of enforcement. And of course, they come brandishing weapons. So then what do? Okay, so then they throw you in jail. Well, then standing in your own rights as a man or a woman, you don't speak to them. You don't give them any authority over you. Remember, everything you say can and will be used against you. So you don't speak. So how long do they lock you up for? 24 hours, 48 hours? What are they doing? They take you to court. You try to stand in your rights as a man in court, and the judge is laughing and saying, oh, that's pseudo-legal garbage. We don't deal with that here. They just bully and bully and bully because we have no arm of enforcement. You know, and they're in the past, in this landmass, there's been some success. But I haven't seen any recently. And I dare say I'd be hard-pressed to see any now, the way the systems are run. And I have mountains of information. You think about the judges get their authority from the crown. The crown is supposed to be the monarchy, the queen, whatever, the king, all that kind of stuff. That's not real. The crown has no authority, and I can break that down, but they don't accept that, you know, and then take it beyond the fact that they swear their oaths to the crown. They're actually corporations, as per the Clearfield Doctrine. A corporation needs a contract. A contract has to be consensual, meaning both parties agree. There has to be consideration in a contract. They're supposed to tell you what the duties and obligations are, but do they tell you? How many people are going to go to court and sign into a contract that's going to lock them up for 18 months? None of this stuff is real. We can't force the game on them.
Yeah, no, she's rigged, boys and girls. But again, it comes down to commerce law because they're all corporations. They have the rights and duties of any other corporation. They don't have any special rights. They don't have any special authority outside of that of what a business is, what a corporation is. They got no more power than McDonald's if you guys want to really boil it down to what the truth is. They get no more power than Tim Hortons or Wendy's or some other business. That's what it is. But because you don't understand, you don't know that you are captured and you're compromised and you're playing the role of the legal person or the personage, they're able to get you into that sphere, right? We're looking for the one that accepts all the duties, obligations. We're looking for that person. We're looking for the person that takes all the blame and pays all the fines, because at the end of the day, this is just one giant business. And we're here to do business. This is a house of commerce. Guys, that's how it works, right? You can argue till you're blue in the face. And I read the comments. I've seen all the haters and stuff, and I try and tell them in a reasonable, it's like me trying to explain to you how a watch works. That's how complex it is. But what it all ultimately boils down to is contracts. They are corporations. The Clearfield Doctrine clearly proves it. They're a business. They're registered at Dun and Bradstreet. They've got Dun numbers. They're registered with the U.S. Stock Exchange. They've got corporation status only. There's no authority. They don't have any authority. They've never had any authority, if you want to get right down to it, because at the end of the day, what did they do? They sailed here and they stuck a flag in the sand and they said, we own it all. That's not authority, guys. That's not authority.
Paul, everything you're saying is true in that comment. You serve these bonds of liability and they can't refute it. It stands as truth, or they fail to respond. It stands as truth, just like I said. But now you're saying then he goes after the monetary obligations. Okay, so how much money has he made doing this? And is he doing it in the United States or is he doing it in Canada? Because there's significant differences there. Significant differences. There's people that get arrested for traveling in their own property and then they can sue their county and get paid. In Canada, that's very, very difficult to do that. Nobody's figured that out up here because it's all different. The UCC kind of is a PPSA. There's so many differences. And then besides that, what is the point of going after financial reparations instead of putting these criminals in jail or arresting them for the crimes they're committing? Chasing these financial obligations ain't going to do anything. And the whole financial system's a fraud anyway. You think you got money in your pocket? They're debt notes. You don't pay for anything. You just transfer debt from one individual to another. This whole financial structure, and it's all going to collapse. So even if he's successful, and you can answer the questions, how successful he's been, how many financial reparations he's received, but even if you're successful, what's going to happen with all your money when they turn this into a digital system and they collapse the economy? They transfer it over into the digital system and they say dollar for dollar. But then at some point in time, in that system, you get the social credit system tied into that. You're only allowed to spend, you could be a millionaire and it all transfers over, but you're only allowed to spend 2,000 credits a month. So it doesn't matter how much money you have. You're only spending 2,000 credits a month. And then at some point in time, they decide that they're going to make your money expire because that's all part of their game too. So then your millionaire status disappears because you're down to the rest of us. That's what I'm saying. Don't clamor that there's great solutions out there until we start seeing people go to prison. And I'm not attacking it, but I really think it doesn't benefit to be chasing them on a financial aspect, holding them accountable that way. I guess it's a starting point, but that's not victory. Until they start going to prison, that's when the victory starts happening. And it comes back to the simple question: how many people think it's wrong to arrest criminals for committing crimes? Regardless of what title they claim to have or what stature they have. A criminal is a criminal. That's it. That's all. So I don't know how much money he's made doing this, how many financial
cops on somebody if you
he's
saw
got.
them beating an old lady?
Right. Exactly.
Would you? So how is it they've attained this mythical unicorn status? That eliminates them from the same rules that apply to us. I don't. Yeah, the halal mortgages. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a misnomer to a degree. They don't pay interest, but they also do have fees because they don't pay interest. But you want to really look at the issue, go beyond the Muslims. The Jewish people don't pay interest on any loans. Any loans. So the Muslims pay fees and things like that, and then halal mortgages.
Yeah, I know.
And they paint
Dean,
that they want to keep feeding that agenda. And don't get me wrong.
Dean. Dean went to prison because he was playing inside of two rules. He was trying to use the legal process as a legal person, and he was also trying to live as a man and claim man status. And the two are like oil and vinegar, and you can't dabble in both. I mean, there's some people that say that, well, we can use legal documentation, and we can use legal things to kind of juggle too many balls, right? And it's fine. They don't dare challenge anybody.
That's fine. He's had some success too, for sure. But and maybe they don't bug him no more, and he's okay for himself right now. But as this agenda keeps moving forward, that's not gonna hold. And we still haven't stopped any of the main players in this agenda. We still haven't arrested or put any of these politicians, these criminals acting as politicians, away. So at some point in time, it's still going to come. It hasn't changed. But basically what I'm saying is it hasn't changed the game for everybody. And this isn't all about everybody. The individual is not going to be able to withhold or withstand against this game as it continues. All these things are going to go away.
We've used the administrative process, Rogue, many, many times, and it's pretty much entirely ignored for the most part. They lose your court documents. They lose your claims. They don't allow you to put in information written by man. There's all kinds of things go on in that house. At the end of the day, they're just a rogue criminal enterprise, and they run around and make the rules as they see fit. And they trample on anyone's paperwork, anybody's administrative process. That's just our experience. If you've got another experience, we'd like to hear about it.
Yeah, that's right. When you go into the courts as you stand, they look at you as a minor, and they look at you as mentally incapable of handling your own affairs. So there's a statement that you can make that clears those two things right off the table from go. And the second part of that is they operate by assumptions and presumptions. And when you rebut all of them assumptions and presumptions, then they no longer stand as assumptions and presumptions. So we've done that, and we gave this exact speech of 3.5 minutes to this one lady, and she's still fighting for her rights. She still hasn't broke through. So breaking them exact same things that they look at right out of the gate. They ignore her at first. They try to overspeak to her, but she's strong, and she continued and continued and continued. So she did exactly that. And when you rebut the assumption of public oath, that's one example. When you rebut that man or woman acting as adjudicator or justice or judge or whatever they want to call themselves, immediately are supposed to recuse themselves from the case because there's a conflict of interest between their oath to the Bar Association and their oath to public office. And they know that. And when she read that, they ignored her. This is what we're trying to say. I'm not saying that some people haven't had success, but I'm also saying that it's not working like it used to work. I have a friend who beat a ticket by using the United Nations human rights laws and the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights. And basically, he asked the court if they were bound by them, and the court said yes. So then he decided that he would give up his right to be seen as a legal person. And at that point in time, the case was over because they can't make any judgments against a living man or woman, only the legal person. So once he gave up that right to be seen as a legal person, they didn't have no authority over him. But when I brought that up in Norm's court situation last year, the judge stated clearly on the record that they are not bound by the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights or the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights. They're bound by statute and criminal code. And statute is legislation that's passed by people that don't have any actual authority and we don't have any contracts with. And criminal code is nothing more than corporate policy. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not against and arguing that some people have had limited success on an individual basis. I'm talking about the big scale of everybody. That's what I'm talking about. And if Cal's got it figured out, then let's work together. But I highly doubt you're going to go to any court in this land of Canada and you're going to have the court put out arrest warrants for the 338 people operating in Ottawa that are destroying our society. I highly doubt that's going to happen. When you look at the federal level, you have the Attorney General, who's supposed to be the highest level of law in the land, individual man or woman. And that person is the Minister of Justice that sits with the federal government in the cabinet. Then you have the Supreme Court of Canada, that's supposed to be a separate entity from the political system, with judges that are appointed by the Prime Minister. This is what I'm saying. Yeah, we know Dean's out in the West. Like I said, nobody's arguing that he hasn't had success on his own level, but it's been on his own level and a little bit helping some people. But that's not now. The times have changed dramatically, man. And I wish all these people, the good minds like that, would all be able to sit together and put our minds together and don't think that we've got it figured out because we had victory once, and come up with a big solution that we can all do for all of us. But that hasn't been able to happen yet either. There's a lot of people that know a lot of stuff. I don't profess to know everything.
Yep. No,
But
100%, brother. 100%.
The point I'm trying to make is that individual victories, we're beyond the individual victories, guys. This is for all of us, guys. And I don't think that any court in this land...
We're just going off our own experience.
Yeah. Do you, anybody out there think that any court is going to put out arrest warrants for the 338 in Ottawa? Because like I said, we done the million charges, and there was all kinds of people across this landmass filing charges themselves with all their own documentation and paperwork. They never even got an investigation. Do you think we did the informed consent laws being broken way back in the beginning? And Crow and I took a big part in that in Nova Scotia, serving at least 12, 14 stations back home. Not one investigation was done. Massive amount of evidence tabulated from their own criminal code. All the information was there. They just had to go and make arrests. Not even an investigation. The RCMP is a crown corporation paid for by the federal government. These are facts, guys.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
They are facts, 100%.
But where is our arm of enforcement? That's the question mark. That's the question mark. I'm telling you, like what Dean talks about, what Cal talks about, what I talk about, what Crow, it's 100% truth, bro. I'm not ever arguing that. Standing as a man in common law, natural law, outside of this marine admiralty system, which I think is even hybridized now with the corporation part of it. But regardless, if we're 100% in truth, they still railroad us. Like you try traveling in your property with no plates, they pull you over. Every once in a while, the cop is decent, he just leaves you alone. But at the end of the day, most of them, they just railroad you. They still arrest you with no crime committed, you know, and then they still tow your vehicle, and then you got all these expenditures to deal with. This is what I'm saying, man. Without an arm of enforcement, you can say whatever you want to the officer on the side of the street. And in fact, you shouldn't say nothing at all. But what's going to happen if you don't answer questions and you don't speak? Even though that's your right. You have that right, even in their legal system, to not speak. Don't answer questions. Then they're going to get ignorant. Then they're going to get irritated. Then they're going to get angry. Then they're going to bust out your window. And then they're going to pull you out of the car. Then they're going to arrest you. Failing to identify. Then they're going to make up these fictitious charges, which none of them are real. They're going to tow your vehicle. Who's going to pay for all that? Has anybody ever got them to pay for all that up here in this landmass? I haven't seen it. And I wish they would, man. You know, that's the struggle. It's all about the arm of enforcement. I'm not arguing the facts of the viability of all this stuff. It's all true. Refusing to identify. But they're taught this stuff. Some of them guys are just ignorant pricks, but this is what they're taught. Well, you need a driver's license to operate a motor vehicle. Sure, I do. But I don't need a license to travel on my own property. And that's confusing to them. Well, it's the same thing. No, it isn't. It's completely different. You're right. They have no
by
moral
assumption
authority.
and presumption, Rogue.
100% they have no authority, Rogue, but that doesn't stop them from doing it.
No. We have withdrawn consent administratively vocally, and every other way. Sorry, Harry, it doesn't seem to make a bit of difference. Again, we don't have an enforcement arm, and if we did, if we were able to go after their bonds, properly lean these individuals out, you would start seeing a change.
The arm of enforcement's a key, guys. If we could ever figure out an arm of enforcement, then we'd have them. They don't care about public opinion. They care about their job. They're just going to do their job. They work for a corporation. These police officers, policy enforcers are nothing more than road pirates. There is no such thing as a lawful order.
They're not lawful orders, first of all.
And if they were lawful orders, then nobody would have an issue with that. What lawful order would you be referring to? Would it be a mandate? Because that's not a law. That doesn't have any authority until you give it authority.
No.
And that's a lawful order that everybody supposedly had to follow before, and look where that's led us. How much damage has that caused? How many lost loved ones and friends has that caused?
Mandates, not a law. I'm sure you guys have seen the meme on the internet. All those things that aren't a law. They're not laws. Anything that violates your original rights, and I'm not talking about privileges. I'm talking about real rights. Anything that violates that is not a law. All right. Your rights end the minute you interfere with somebody else in a negative way. That's where your rights end and theirs begin. And if everybody would just go back to that original jurisdiction, that original and set of rules, do no harm, we wouldn't be having the problems we have now. But there's no money to be made doing that. There's no corruption doing that. You think back in the days when common law was actually being adhered to and being complied with and being enforced, that they didn't hold people accountable for what they did. I'm here to tell you, brother, they did. People didn't get away with anything, even back then. Not very much. Not in the community. Not with the jury of your peers. Not with other strong men in the community. A lot of times it didn't even go to a courthouse. It didn't even go to a court. They dealt with it in a country way. And those of you that live in the rural areas know what I'm talking about. You confronted the individual that was causing the issue, and you made it right. And you made sure they understood that this is not the way we behave here.
Something that people really need to comprehend is anybody that's trying to administer rights over something that they don't own or somebody that they don't own is actually committing slavery.
Right.
That's it. That's all. It's very simple. So when a police officer is trying to force you to do it, does he own you or does she own you? No. Do they own your property? Well, kind of, sort of, if it's registered to the province, they do. Yeah, we have to hold our own court. We have to hold our own court. But the only way that's going to work is if we're the ones that are doing the arrest. If we're the ones that are doing this. And it becomes a Nuremberg type scenario. That's the only way out. It has to be a people's court.
Yeah, I agree with that, Rogue.
100%. The game changer is the first one of these criminals that gets arrested.
Yep.
That's the game changer. Listen, guys, if we stand up,
scatter like rats the minute.
That's exactly what's going to happen. It'll be like rats from a sinking ship. As soon as they see this house of cards crumbling, they're going to run because they know they're guilty. We just have to push the envelope that far. Like we said, guys, this is just open conversations. I have my thoughts. If I think this is the only way out of it is the people doing the work. But ultimately, the truth of the matter is, if we had the solutions, I know for me, it would be done already. It would already be over. But I don't see a solution without the will of the people and the masses coming together to create the solution together. I don't think we're ever going to accomplish anything on an individual basis, or I don't care if there's a million small groups all over the world doing their own thing. I don't think it's going to matter. I think we all have to come together. Yeah, the Maxine's a law that they do not follow in the courts, or the canon laws that they do not follow in the courts. Nope. You know, none of these things, man. Like I said to the judge, man, that the onus is on the prosecution to find guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. To which he responded, he said that, but he said you can't prove anything absolutely. So he admits that they failed in their one job, but he still finds guilt based on his assumption and presumption. No proof.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I agree with that, Harry. They have to let go of the childish notion of a ruling class. But again, it comes down to contracts. If you're claiming that you own me and I'm your slave, where's the contract? I want to see it. I want to see it because I didn't sign it. I don't know about it. If I did know about it, I would have a few other things that I'd like to amend the contract with. I didn't get that opportunity. So what does that make it, guys? Come on, null and void, right?
And all the contracts, guys, all the contracts that we signed without knowledge of, like signing for our license or any of these kind of things, there was no transparency in those contracts. So again, they're not valid. They're based on fraud. There was no consideration. They weren't sharing the duties and obligations of both parties. So that means them contracts aren't good. So when they say, oh, they have the right based on that, well, that contract's not valid no more. And you have the right to rescind any contract. You know, a lot of times people don't look at the macro. The micro, there's a lot of people that get what's going on an individual basis. Rogue, Harry, Paul, us, all the people here, Susan, whatever. But how many of you guys are actually living that life? How many of you are driving around with no plates? How many of you aren't using dollars and bills and stuff to go and buy goods and things like that? How many of you are living completely outside of the system? I'm not doing it. I know everybody's doing it to some degree, but I don't think there's that many people doing it, period, on the big scale. And then even if this group of people here, and I don't know how many's on tonight, but even if this group of people here was doing it, there's 41 million people. Like we said a long time ago, we could end this very quickly if everybody just decided not to go to work next week, and we all just sat home and did whatever you want, watch Netflix, hang out with your family, catch up on chores, whatever the case may be, and collapse the system. But the vast majority of people aren't going to do that. It's like if you own a factory and 20% of the people went on strike for better wages, it doesn't matter what the reason was, better working conditions, whatever. But the 80% decided they weren't going on strike, then they're just going to fire the 20% and replace you. So unless we get the vast majority of the people behind what we're going to do on those levels, then it's just enabling the process to continue on a slow bleed. Because the vast majority, remember, thinks that we're crazy.
Yeah.
They're not in tune with anything. And those are the people that don't want to be unplugged from the matrix. Those are the people that don't realize they're a slave and any of these kind of things. So that means it's left up to us all to come together and do what we have to do, regardless of what people think. And I believe what we have to do is we have to go en masse to all of these buildings, all these government buildings, and we have to arrest the people that are acting as politicians because they're the criminals. And then we have to fix the system. And all the knowledge that we've all gained about the bad parts of the system and the fraud in the system and the faults of the system, if we know that, then how can we not fix the system? And we are no lower than the ruling class. See, that's what I'm saying, Rogue. Like I said, we all appreciate that, bro. All of us have that struggle. None of us can really break free from the system 110% because it runs on this fake financial system. You got to pay for your utilities. You got to pay. And Crow don't have power like that, but he still got to buy propane. He still got to spend money to buy fuel. He still got to, because that's how it works. He can't go down to the gas station and offer the guy 3 loaves of bread for a little bit of fuel to get home. It doesn't work like that in this world. The propane guy doesn't come to his house and say, "Yeah, I'll take them 4
Not
chickens."
yet.
You know, that doesn't work like that. So we're stuck in the system until we break the pinnacle. All the problems come from the top. So we fight all these problems, lower level problems. And if we all brought our energy from the people that are fighting, honestly, they're doing that for a reason, and we built that energy together and went to the top, then all them lower level problems we can deal with without interference. That's always been my mindset, but for some reason, people don't seem to want to gravitate to that based on fear and intimidation, I think. Because how is it that we could possibly be the ones to arrest the criminals that are acting as politicians, the ruling class, so to speak?
Yep. I don't think the Hunger Games scenario is a path I really want to do either, but I mean, I'm prepared either way. But still, I mean, that's not freedom. How is it freedom? The minute you step outside of your property or whatever, you're right back into that criminal world. You know, you're right back into that. Used to be this thing
100%.
called freedom of movement, right? You guys remember that?
You know, look
There
at
she
people that are
is. There's our
building.
brave warrior.
Yeah, there she is.
Yeah. This is one
It's
tough lady
horrible
right
what's
here,
going on.
guys. I'll tell you right now. I don't think I've met anybody like her. Uh, she's as
She can
strong
tell
as
you.
I've ever seen,
She can tell you how the courts ignore everything
and
that you
we've been
throw
doing our
at them.
best to help her. And we're going to.
Hey, Lindsay, she can tell you exactly how the courts ignore her, no matter how right she is. This is what we're saying, guys.
She's right.
That's the thing, guys. So let's just look at the strategies of building communities and stuff. So that's romantic. That's all great. We're all building self-sustainable communities, and we're going to get off the system, create our own power, fuel, whatever the case may be, because we can do all these things. That's all well and good. But as on the macro level, everything continues along with their agenda. What you ultimately have created is your own 15-minute city, which is all part of their narrative anyway. Because as Crow mentioned earlier, you step outside of that community that you created, now you're back in the tyrannical world again, and you have to follow by their rules. And they'll only allow that to exist until they deem it as a threat to their system. Once they deem it as a threat to their system, they roll in with all their military might, and they'll just roll right over that, or their drones, or their friggin' weather manipulation, or all these different things that they got control of. Everybody that's doing everything they can on an individual level to change their own individual dynamic is great. I would never attack anybody for doing that. I'm talking about on the bigger scale, on the bigger level, on an empathetic level for everybody. And you say, oh, well, the people that want that, that's okay, they can have it. But that's not fair, because that means all of our kids and grandkids for generations are going to struggle in the system that we're allowing them to build, because the other people want that to happen, and we're just going to take care of ourselves. My kids are all grown up. I got grandkids in public schools.
Yeah, rip them out of that matrix. Yeah. I don't know, guys. This was a great conversation. I appreciate everybody coming on here. I'm going to wrap it up now. Um, I hope that we've given somebody some ideas tonight, in a positive spin, in a positive way. I mean, at the end of the day, Gordy and I don't even exactly 100% gel with each other's ideas and stuff, but we still put our points out there and our opinions out there for the simple reason that we want to have a brainstorming session, so something maybe will come from it. And a lot of times that's exactly what happens, guys. I mean, you guys don't have any idea how many conversations this man and I have had. It's been a lot. It's been a whole lot. And there's always something comes from it. So if I could leave with anything, I'll say this. Don't close your mind to any possibilities. Okay? Don't think you know it all. Try and keep continuing to learn something new every day. Don't take what you have for granted. Get yourself some storable food and water. I really believe in that, guys, especially now. Go into debt to get it if you have to, but have it. Because at some point, we're already seeing it. They're going to use food as a weapon. They always have it in history. It's never going to change. They're going to use that at some point. So do that, please do that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else I can tell you. We're working on it all the time. We're trying to figure stuff out. I'm engaged in learning commerce and contract law right now. Gordy's looking at other avenues. I have some big information eventually that I will be able to verify, but I'm waiting to verify it before I release it to you. But it's big. If you guys want to learn more, start looking into their bonds. If anybody out there is an official, knows where their bonds are kept, the courts, the cops, whoever, any agent or principal in the Canadian system for sure, let us know, because we'd like to go after some of these bonds. Because the minute you shut down their ability to do commerce, the minute you flip the table on them, no different than Jesus turning the tables over in the temple and whipping the money, the usury guys, the money lenders, no different at all. And well, if Cal knows how to do it, Paul, then why doesn't he do it already? Right? Cal's not a savior. I'm sure he does great stuff. I don't know the man. I don't really know his work, but you're talking like that's the only answer. It's not. If you're going to say that, then prove it to us. Show me. Don't tell me. Show me. I'll follow anything that I believe in, but I'm not going to just go by off of this Cal guy that's got all the answers magically figured out for everybody. Show me that he's got it figured out. Right? Anyway, love you all, you guys. I hope you have a great new year. I really do. I hope it's a happy year for you in 2025. I hope you get everything that you've ever wanted in 2025. I encourage you to strengthen yourself every way possible. Because believe you me, even if we do win in this fight, and we will eventually, there's going to be some hard times coming. Harder than we've seen yet. And we've been in it. Those of you that have been living here know, and the UK's got it even worse in a lot of ways, but we're in it. We're definitely in it. This isn't the beta phase we're in anymore, guys. It's gone live, right? So let's see if we can come together somehow. Okay, let's see if we can put aside our differences and just try and get together. I don't know what else to say. Gordy, you want to say anything before I close her down?
Yeah. I just don't want anybody taking anything away from this negative in a negative manner. Certainly from my aspect of it. People say that, when people say that this is figured out and we can just do this or we can just do that, those are all true points. But it always goes back to, like I said, the arm of enforcement. And no matter how right we are, 100% standing in the truth, I've not seen that work to that level. And if Cal's got it figured out, and that's great, then let's get Cal to get in touch and let's go arrest these criminals acting as politicians that are destroying our society in all these countries all over the world. I don't want to talk to anybody that's worried about the financial aspect of it or any of that crap. I don't want to talk with anybody that's interested in trying to have another independent election or anything like that. The system is the problem, and until we deal with the system in and of itself, then we're just friggin' just fighting little tiny battles. That's it. That's all. And I don't know how much more time we have. I know for a fact that this digital system is a matter of flipping a switch, and when they flip that switch, there's no turning back from that. The dollar's gone, and we're all going to have to be part of the system or live outside the system, and then we're going to struggle. And I don't see how we can fight back when we're going to have to spend most of our energy out there to just survive. So I appreciate all the work everybody's doing. I'm not trying to be negative, but I'm not going to lie about it how I see it, and I'm not going to not tell you my perception of it. The Cal's got the answers, and I'm happy to hear from him. And I'll certainly walk there myself if that's going to work, and I'll arrest these people. I have no issue with doing any of that. I'm not afraid of any of them. But until we do that, then that's not a solution. So anyway, like I said, everybody come together, meeting of minds, and we can all come together and figure this out. The sooner the better. anyway, this is our year. No matter what, we win. They know it.
Yeah.
I just don't know the path to get there, and I don't know the timeline. I appreciate you guys all. Thanks for the time that you spent with us this evening. I love you. I appreciate you, Crow. Thanks for this, brother. Much love to everybody.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Especially with the stream being so unstable and Gordy carried the weight. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, it's all good.
At the end of the day, I'm just about having a conversation, guys. I may not agree with it, but you got the right to say it at the end of the day. And after all, isn't that the freedom we're after? That's true freedom, right? I think it is. Anyway, good night, guys. Love you all. Take care.
Take care, guys.